So let's get kicking, but I don't have a lot of hope for the campaign itself, which you might have gotten an idea of from my intro. However, I know I don't particularly enjoy the game without the campaign. So we'll start with the sequence play, Prussian Allied turn. We're starting on turn 9 here, which is where the first scenario normally starts. And we can skip a few of these. No need to create depots. We're all in locations either with or with a fortress. Now the Prussian march phase. Now, I don't have all my stacks set up yet, and a couple, I also don't have a die. Grab one for now. This is a rounded die. I don't want to use a rounded die for this game because it's too old-fashioned. But yeah, we're going to make a quick roll, and we get a 5. That's going to be our base movement. We add the initiative to that. We move some pieces. Now, the hard part is there's only one force on the Prussian side, and that's the Prussians. So I have to hunt down all my leaders, some of which are flipped over. Normally, most of your leaders would be leading field armies, but because I started in fortresses, not so good a chance. And I'll be back as I take a look at that. But my initial goal is to take Saxony out as quickly as possible. Things right, I have basically 2 forces. Frederick here, who was in Magdeburg, he left a unit behind so that we can still trace supply. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, he can move further. He could actually move another hex. This is important because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes, I don't think it's movement points, is where he can build his depot. Now this doesn't really help because to build a siege at Targau, I have to, and I can't take it otherwise, I have to build a depot there, which means I need a depot somewhere along the way. Now once I have Torgau, I can then siege Dresden by just building a depot at Dresden. I also gathered Schwerin over here with Brunswick, I believe. And at this depot, the reason being I want to gather my forces in one place. And it may not be the best place, but depots seem like the thing that's more important to defend. So I just moved there. Now, the next thing we come to is the anti-coalition get to move. Now, I could leave like 10 strength points back here, building the depot, and move to Torgau and speed the process up a little bit. I'm not too worried about the Saxons being able to beat me. They might come out if I do, though. But then I can gather my forces. The danger to moving the Austrians is they might roll more than a 6, and I have to go find my Austrian forces. Now at this point, I have Rutkowski here, who could actually move, and I don't want to lose Saxony because then I lose all my forces there. So the question then becomes, do I want to try to reinforce Rutkowski or do I want to fight in Silesia? I'll take a quick look at what my initiative ratings are. So for example, who is this, Brown? He's got a 2 initiative, which means he's got a chance of losing a strength point if I march up. But on the other hand, fighting where Philip ain't or where Frederick ain't is kind of useful. Although Schwerin is pretty damn good on defense, so I may want to just try to siege cities or something. My Austrian forces, I don't have to go in order with them. I'm going to try to move Piccolomini first. Shit, I still haven't swapped my die out. And he makes a quick roll. He gets 4 movement points, doesn't have to pay anything. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't think I'm going to move Brown, but I am going to move Cerbaloni. And I don't know where yet. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can't move there. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll gather him up near Brown as well. Try to consolidate my forces because I'll have a better chance of beating Schwerin if I have to. I don't think I can field 2 armies. Obviously, it's not an unreasonable choice for Frederick to say, screw Saxony, let them come in on the war on their own, and then I'll defeat them, and I'll get the diplomatic bonus of that, and just fight the Austrians here. But I want to try to follow the historical pattern and see if it works out at all well. I have the feeling that following the historical pattern is actually a horrible choice, though. And I always view that as a negative to anything. Obviously, that's just for the campaign game. Nothing to say against the actual game, which just programs you in and says, here is the historical situation on this year. Deal with it. Now we're on the Austrian side of the turn. And we basically do the same thing. I have nothing I particularly want to do until it gets to March. I've swapped in good old Avalon Hill dice, which for whatever reason I prefer to use with the older style games. It's just something to do. And we'll see what they get. Okay, we get basically 6 movement points across the board. Now I can gather, and the real question is where I want to be and what I want to fight. Now here's one of the problems. I have more replacement points than the Prussians do. If I lose a battle, it's a bad thing. I don't know where forces are. In the original game, I would have known that there are so many Prussians set up in each of these stacks. But in the campaign game, you don't know that. It's a secret. That can change, your ability to handle things and deal with stuff. What does a 6 get me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It does not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not going to get me in a position where I can relieve Saxony automatically. But it's appealing to me to try to bring the Saxons into play. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to move Brown first. Now, for whatever reason, he's off on his own. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I do not have to worry about taking attrition because of that. Now I have to go to Piccolomini. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could have picked these up. I could have also picked them up with Brown, but I could also move them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the same hex as Brown, and I'll stack those accordingly so all the leaders are on top. I don't have to worry too much about supply. You can see all the fortresses are garrisoned, even all the Prussian fortresses, except for Kustrin. That's a choice I made. There's a few extra Prussian strength points in the starting setup, and I decided I would fill them in fortresses that are in the background that maybe I need. I think Kustrin is very unlikely for the Austrians to get to. I guess the question is between Kolberg and Kustrin. Now, these are worth victory points, but I'm not near the 4 out of 5 cities either, so we don't have to worry too much about that yet. And after I do that stacking, then we look at whether the Prussians want to make any reaction rolls. Now, these guys can't do what they want to do if there's a reaction roll. There's a few options. One, I don't have to move Schwerin at all. I could just leave him up there. I'm going to leave Frederick where he is. There's no question of that. Although, could I set myself up to siege Torgau? No, because the order of play is that depot creation comes before movement. Well, it doesn't really matter. What matters is I'm not within range here to any depot that could possibly be on the map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? It's set up just so that you've got to build one more depot at least in order to siege Torgau. So it doesn't help me a lot to make a forced march with Frederick at this point, and it could cost me a strength point. So then the question comes to, what do I want to do with Schwerin? I could leave him where he is. But he's got a low bonus, which means I'm unlikely to lose strength points. So I'm more likely to do active things with him than I am with Frederick, right? So losing strength points is bad. So then I have two options in that case. One is to push into Austria and try to take some of the cities in Austria, maybe. maybe even threatening Vienna, or to move over this way and try to make sure I don't lose the big land battle that Austria seems to be setting up for against Frederick. I will choose the latter because I believe it's the safer option, and that only through a massive victory against the opponent can you manage to get yourself any gains. And also, we're late in the year already. I don't think we're going to be able to win the game in the first year. In fact, you can't win it in the first year. So I want to ensure that my strength is in good shape. So I'm going to make a roll on him, and I get 5 movement points. I'm going to keep that depot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is this safe? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll go up here a little further away. Now we kind of have to worry. Once there's a depot at Torgau, then we're back in range and we're okay. And we've got a point, which means we're allowed to leave supply if we can expect to be back in it soon. But we'll lose a strength point to do so, so we don't really want to do that. And that's the end of turn 1. And you can see, it's a pretty fast-moving, simple game, to tell you the truth, at the core, which is good, because especially if you're playing a campaign of it, you kind of don't want it to be real painful in terms of a lot of different actions. And I find most of the campaign games that I like have a fairly simple core to them. Yeah, like Le Grand Guerre and stuff like that, right? Thing to look at is the combat table. Remember, Frederick on defense isn't that good, but on offense he's a 3. On defense he's about equal to Brown on either side, which means Frederick's going to have like a +1. If we're at even, I think the chart isn't that bad for him. Now, there are some tricky things because this does percentage losses of the forces of the side that's losing them. There could be advantages to having very small forces under people's commands. So it may actually behoove me not to be combining Schwerin and Frederick. I don't understand the system enough to be sure about that, but I've seen hints of that in some of the discussions, that like you kind of want to spread out, and however, when I look at, Brown is almost as good, I'm not getting any guarantee here, and my general feeling is always, let's bring force to bear. Well, force to bear means you're going to take more losses, though, and that's the thing to keep in mind here. So I may be doing horrible, horrible things by trying to gather up as much force as possible. So be it. Numbers should matter at some level or another, and you got to be careful, because what is the overwhelming attack? The overwhelming attack comes at 400%. So you can't have a tiny force under Frederick, but it might behoove him to be relatively weaker than his opponent. Now, I don't know, because, again, Brown is as good on attack as Frederick is on defense. Keep jumping in and out too quickly. So, yeah, I need to build that depot. So I'm going to slap down a depot there. But, because otherwise the Austrians can just handcuff me by just being here. I've got to proceed with my actions. I can't just let them sit there. And now I have to, I believe, make my move on Torgau, which is going to involve a die roll for movement. And we get a pretty good roll, which means Schwerin is going to be able... Oh, Schwerin may have problems. He may not be able to move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But he can probably get to here. Yeah, he can get up to there at the very least. So I can be in the same general theater. Of course, then the Austrians could sweep in and try to take all of Silesia and say, screw it. Yeah, I don't need you, Frederick. I can go dance somewhere else. I actually ran into a problem. I don't have enough troops under Frederick. I have, yeah, I do, don't I? No, I only have 17 strength points under Frederick. I need 20 to be able to build a depot here and start constructing this one. So it doesn't help me to move. Did I do that right? Yeah, Frederick only starts with 18 strength points, so he's not even fast enough to jump down and start sieging Torgau right away. So this is somewhat problematic. Now we go over to the Austrians, and I want to force march with Piccolomini, get him into my stack, and gather him together. And as long as we don't roll a 6, we're okay. And we do not. And that's all I'm going to do with him, is move up there. John moves forward to Dresden, gathers up the entire Imperial force. He's ready to just try to rock and roll with what he thinks will be numerical advantage. We'll see how big it is. Meanwhile, Schwerin here, no reason to force march him. Next turn we're going to be moving into Torgau, or possibly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down into Dresden and fight that climactic battle. We probably want to be the aggressor because Frederick's better on the attack. So, do we pop to the next turn? Because if we don't move Schwerin, here's the problem. Brown can then force march and defeat us in detail. So you know what? We do want to move. No, he can't. That's right. I get a chance to move before that happens. So we shift into turn 11. Onward. First thing that happens, the depot is built. Now, the depot is a bit of a problem because I got to leave a strength point there. But let's see what kind of movement I'm going to be getting. And I get to see this die roll. So here's the thing. If I had to roll each leader individually and do them in order, Frederick might not know whether Schwerin can make it. But since I just roll one die roll, I get to see exactly what I'm going to do. And I get enough strength points, I think, indeed, we're going to attack at Dresden. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So we're going to gather all of our forces down at Dresden. We're in supply. Everything's good. And we'll see our first battle, perhaps. Brown decides not to withdraw. We're going to have a battle of basically the two armies. Frederick's attacking because he wants that +1 bonus. So we've got 24, 28, 30 points to 16, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 31. We're just below the 1-to-1. Didn't expect that. I thought we had more. So we're on the 66 to 99, and we're at +1 because of the leadership. And that's it. We roll a 5. And maybe the whole game's decided here. Okay, so the attacker takes 20% losses. The defender takes only 10% and a leader. Not a good result for Frederick. So 24, 30. He's going to lose 6 strength points off the bat. The Austrians will lose. What were we at? 16, 20, 24, 27, 31 times 10%. I think that's rounded up, so I think they lose 4. Not that big a difference. So let's see what we got here. Yeah, we have to look it up. That's what we do. I forgot we got a chart here. 31 at 10. Yeah, we only lose 3 actually. We'll take that all on Saxons because there's a reason you might not want to do this, because you get more, you might get more Saxons back, and Saxons are on our side. But I don't think Saxony is going to last very long. If they do, fine, then it's just gravy. So I'm not willing, I don't want to lose Austrians when I can lose anything but. So, who lost the battle? Adds the number of enemy strength points defeated to his commander's initiative. So we did 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. That's 2 captives. Okay. Which means I'm going to put these somewhere to try to remember that they have to be recovered. And we have to retreat back to a base. We go back 5, which probably is all the way back. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're back here. We pick up a demoralized marker. And we have an Austrian victory, and they may continue to try to pursue this. I forgot to take my leader loss. I decided to take an Austrian loss so that I can move my Saxons. Unfortunately, my die roll wasn't high enough that the Saxons could immediately engage, but I'm going to have a 1-to-1 anyway. So I marched Brown up, and I moved Rutkowski up to Torgau, getting them closer into the fighting. I want to push things right onto the Prussians if I can. Our strengths are 1623 to 1624. This is an attack at 100%. We're all even. Demoralized doesn't do anything here. The only thing it really did is meant that the Prussians could not try to run away. So we keep going. And we get a 1. That doesn't sound likely to be very good. That's 20% a leader loss for the Austrians, 10% for the Prussians, and I believe we're going to see sort of a reverse action going on here. So what do we got here? Total strength points of suffering force was 21 to 25, and so we're looking at 2 or 5 losses as the base. So the Austrians lose 5. And I should actually keep the losses over to the side. The Prussians lose 4, but that's a problem. So 2 plus 2 is 4. 5 plus 3 is 8. 4 Austrians are captured. And that does not work out well. And they are also now demoralized and have to run away. With an initiative of 2. 3. Can I stop at a supply source, or must expend its full? I believe I have to keep going. So we're going to have to retreat 3 hexes. Austrians lost another leader. In this case, I took Ferdinand, who actually would have been a better choice than a decent leader that I lost before, but whatever. Now, leader attrition seems kind of high. And what it may mean is that a leader is just out for the year, and we may see that the campaign starts dropping the leaders too quickly. It may not always represent true leader casualties. We're entering a P turn. Prisoner exchange happens at the end of it. First thing that we get to do is to check whether Frederick makes himself happier. He's got a +3 to the die roll. 6. I think you have to get to a 7 because remember, a 0 initiative doesn't help. So I have not gotten anywhere. I can't lay siege to anything. I can't split that force up. I'm just going to sit there. We go to the Austrian turn, probably a similar thing. I believe I have an initiative of 2 with Brown. He also is not recovering. This war, the first year may be over here. We have a prisoner exchange. 2 Austrians for 2 Prussians. Where do they get to be placed? Well, any non-besieged fortress garrisoned by the same nationality. Doesn't say anything about depots. Garrisoned by the same nationality, though, which means I think the Austrians are going to go down to Prague. And the Prussians, geez. I don't have many good options here. I'll put them in Magdeburg, because that's where the front seems to be sitting now. Turn 13, the Prussians did not, where are we? October. Late October. The Prussians did not recover. I wasn't impressed with my attack. I think I got lucky on Frederick's attack. Maybe not, I don't know. Because he was under the 100%. Here's the thing, this doesn't look that bad. We got a horrible roll there. Yeah, I'm gonna try for another shot. The thing is, as long as I've got Prussia demoralized, maybe I don't really want to. But the other option is to kind of position myself near him and try to cut his supply, and that would force him to sort of die off or leave, which could be an interesting choice. But one way or another, we want to move. So we get a 4. If we position ourselves here, we kind of cut off his supply line, don't we? That doesn't reach, and then this would have to go around. I gotta look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. If I'm right here, that's not going to make it either. So I kind of think I'd rather kill off units at no cost, because I'll be in supply. So we're going to move, what did I have, a 4? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're going to move here, and we're going to move Rutkowski also to join him there, and they'll be gathered. And of course the Prussians can't react. It means during the Prussian Allied attrition phase, they lose another strength point. Strength points are key in this game, no matter what. So I'm happy to be killing them off. One thing is, you don't have to be in supply to recover. So Frederick has maybe a chance here, so we'll roll and see. And he does recover. However, he's still not in supply. Now, I can leave a garrison back here protecting my depot situation, or I could just rip up my depot and give up my hard work. I feel like I need to try to win a battle against Brown. If he's going to be in the field against me like this, I gotta face him. Now, I could split up my units or some shit like that, but that's just asking for it. Reactions probably mean I'll be able to hit him. But, yeah, we'll move in on him, I guess. And now we've got the hard call of, does Brown want to let Frederick attack him here? Probably shouldn't take my depot with me. It looks like I gotta break units. It's too dangerous to break my units up, because if I leave just a strength point there, the Austrians can do a reaction move and overrun it. So what I actually did was I left just the depot there. If they want to be tied to the depot, that's fine. I'm counting on and hoping that I can win the battle. Do the Austrians want to react? Jeez. We won the last battle. Let's fight. You know, the last time we fought a defensive battle. Let's fight again. Maybe we don't want to do that, because we could go capture the depot and then destroy it. When are we allowed to destroy it? During any friendly movement phase. Yeah, so we can just march over that depot and destroy it. And in a sense, yes, we might lose a strength point in doing so, but we buy a lot of time. And I think we're going to come out ahead in the diplomacy situation. So let's go for that. So we have a 2 reaction. Ooh, shit, we got fucking Rutkowski with us. That's the problem. All right, we'll fight. We can use the initiative on Rutkowski too. Sure. So we'll move him first, and then we'll catch up to him so that we don't have to react to get our army together. So he's got a 4. So he'll move 1. Shit. I'm having a lot of trouble with these stacks today. We had 4 movement for him. 1, we destroy the depot. 2, 3, 4, we'll fall back. We'll only fall back to here because Brown may not make it further than that. And now we roll for Brown, who gets 2 movement. You know what? I've been forgetting to pay the movement for moving into an enemy hex. And Brown gets 2. So 1, 2, 3, he's there. And we figure out that stack in a moment. We've outmaneuvered Frederick here. He can't siege anything. He can march down and attack us, but I don't know what that does for him. And it's our turn, and is there something we want to do? We're getting close to the end of the year, so I guess we'll just make a roll and see where we might want to move. And we got a big one. We can move 6. Fall back into the mountains. And what we've managed to do is basically simply by operating in the same area, handcuffing Frederick. And how did that work? Well, you know, Frederick couldn't leave himself out of supply, cut off by the Grenzers and whatnot. So he had to leave his depot. And by doing so, he pretty much set it up in a situation where he had to leave it undefended, or else he'd have to leave a fair-sized force to garrison it. Whatever that was, the Austrians could hit. The other option is that I just sit here, and that's no better than where I am. So in a lot of ways, this just ended up, you know, kind of being able to throw some forces into the general theater that Frederick's trying to operate in as a means to stop him. Now, obviously, if I had lost that first battle against Frederick, things would have been different. I would have been the one handcuffed. Maybe those 2 cities, maybe 1 or 2 of those cities would have fallen, and Frederick would have gotten his goals in Saxony, you know, that he historically obtained. Was it unwise, though, given this, for Frederick to pull Schwerin over? Because Schwerin could have been doing something. If I can't get anything done in Saxony, maybe I should be getting something done in Austria and, you know, making the Austrians pay a price for gathering their army. Instead, though, I gathered my army as well and ended up completely baffled by the situation, which kind of sucks. So anyway, the Austrians, I believe, took their move and moved back here, and now the Prussians have options. I could react move, but that's an expensive choice. I could pull like some of my forces off to try to build a depot, but again, not a cheap option. So I don't know. I don't know what to do, honestly. I think I don't want to take a chance of losing a unit, so we'll just push this down deeper into November, I guess. Assuming I have my turn right. And, you know, we're nearly at winter's end now. Is that right? I don't know. I may have skipped a turn. I think I skipped a turn. But yeah, we're nearly at winter, and I think we've just failed. Take a little diversion here before I continue on, because I think we're about ready to end. So I'm looking at the rules for the campaign, and they're agnostic or do not mention what the hell happens with depots between winter stages. Now, one problem is things that are out here in the winter are going to die. If you're outside of your home area at winter and not in a winter quarters, let's see. One strength point is eliminated from each friendly force which has not entered winter quarters. Depots are not winter quarters, so if I want to save this unit, I gotta go run and get him. However, I don't have to destroy the depot by any rules in the game, and I can just leave it there. I can't set up on it. Now, what's kind of wacky is when I redeploy, I'm only allowed to deploy to fortresses, not to depots. However, in some of the scenarios, not just the 1756 scenario, which starts here, all other scenarios start up here, in April, which is, I believe, when you start the campaign, scenarios that come from that, some of those start with units already on depots. I don't think that there's an easy way to reconcile that, but since there's no rules for removing depots, I think I can just leave them and move up to them, and, you know, if they're in close range of my forces, I can dispatch someone to go move to them. I won't get the exact situation that I have for these setups, but yeah, it's not that common. Like, there's a depot in Hanover. I don't see one here. I see one here. The Austrians have a depot. You know, so, I mean, they do happen in the historical setups, which to me means I should at least be allowed to leave them out there, even if I can't have them garrisoned as they would be. Somewhat problematic. Maybe there should be a pre-turn or something like that, but who knows. At this point, I don't think Prussia can do anything, really. I mean, maybe I could get lucky with a winter campaign and take Torgau, but I feel like we're at the end, you know? At this point, the only thing we can really look to do is maybe try to save him. I don't know what else. I pulled back to Magdeburg, not yet in winter quarters, and I've got Keith marching a strength point over this way. Now it looks like Keith doesn't have much, so I sent Sir Baloney out to test him out. He's probably not going to be able to catch him, but we'll see. And you got to be careful and make sure I make it into a home in winter quarters. That means it's now the Austrians' turn, and now I can roll Austrian movement to see what I want to do. So I got 3 for Sir Baloney. I can't get up there. I'll move there, and I don't know if I want to chance moving Brown forward. He's okay where he is. Do I want to move Keith? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think I'd better. He's at risk now. He can only move 2, but that gets me part of the way. And that pushes me to the next turn. And, you know, we're basically not going to see a war happening this year anymore. Moves further on, the fact that Sir Baloney is the leader here means that the Austrians really can't catch him. And I can't get to here either. Basically, they're both out of range of my supply net. So I think it's time for the Austrians to find their way back home now, too. Before the end of the next turn, everybody's made it into winter quarters and we're done. Yay. All right, that means the year ends and we go to all the special rules for 1756. And this is going to take us a little bit of time, but let's go for it. First thing is the diplomacy. I have to choose where my points are going to go. For the Prussians, I want to make sure I get something. Well, I think the important thing is to make sure Hanover's on our side and we get the politically, standard thing. So I'm going to throw my 2 points into there. This is secret, but it's also pretty obvious. What we're looking at here. Now, what's kind of strange is Hanover gets these here. If Hanover makes an alliance with Prussia, Hanover forces may be redeployed to the following fortress in addition to. I guess that's sort of, if they get the 2 stars, they get something beneficial there. Okay. All right. What do I feel with the Austrians, though? I think the most important thing for us, we want to make sure France doesn't end up pro-Prussian. That would suck. So how can we do that? Well, there's 1 against. We're going to put 1 point into France. Russia's weird. They have a lot of forces, but I don't know that I really want to put the points towards them. I own Saxony already. I think I'm going to put the rest of my bid into Hanover. So we've got essentially 1 net point in France, 1 net point in Hanover. Let's see what that works out as. Now, we're probably not going to be able to prevent Hanover from going Prussian, but we'll see. So for France, we add 1 to the die roll because of the Prussian invasion of Saxony, and 1 to the die roll because we netted an extra point. We get a 2, which is a 4, so they end up pro-Austria, and they may redeploy into Venlo, Roermond, and Weslow, which are these guys over here. In addition, the forces of both players may enter the area of the German states without disturbing the neutrality of any power. All right, that means we're on Hanover. Now, we had a +1 net, but that turns to a -1 net because France allied with Austria. So it's still going in favor of Prussia, but they might not join. We get a 4. Hanover stays neutral. Okay. For Russia, we add 1 to the die roll because of the Saxon invasion. 6, they're pro-Austria. So right now we're looking at France and Russia. Sweden has a +1 to the die roll. They get a 3. Sweden's staying neutral. And the Empire has no modifiers whatsoever, but they can enter on a 5 or a 6 in favor of Austria. We get a 4. So we have France and Russia joining the Austrian cause. No Hanoverian British aid. And as far as I can tell, I can't find a rule that allows the Brits to enter in later. I thought they got to keep checking, but I think I made that up from somewhere. Okay, what does that mean our next thing is? Well, our next thing is the force increment phase. Now, if some other country gets invaded, all bets are off. Things change. Each player secretly allocates resource points to augment their forces. Now, let me look and make sure I understand this correctly. My understanding of the rules is you can allocate all of your points at this point. In which case, whatever I do, I want to make sure I get good rounding off of it. But the Austrians basically have like 30 points, I think. I know the Prussians have 22. Yeah, the Austrians have 30 points. So I could I could quadruple my force. I could add 3 times as much to my force. Right now, what are the disadvantages to that? The disadvantages is the bigger forces that you have allocated to battles, the more damage you take. Even if you win battles, you might end up, well, even if you get good die rolls on the battles, you might end up losing the battle just because of the losses you take. So I kind of want to be careful with that. That may be the one limiting factor on why do you not want to bring all your forces in at once. So let me think about that a little bit. The Austrians have 25 strength points on the board, and these are some of them here in Dresden. I feel like I need more troops than I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say on a 1, I don't know what I do. I think I want to add at least 100%, which is going to be 10 of my 30 points. That gives me 25 more. On a 5 or a 6, I'm going to add 200%. More than that, I don't want to do, mainly because I don't want to have to create new counters. Not that I can't pull some out of War and Peace, but so let's see. All right, so we're going to create we're going to create that other 25%, 25 counters by spending 10 of our points, and we're just going to grab that and throw that into our reserve. Now these guys don't count; they're just still prisoners, I guess. Russians, I have 34 points of units. I feel pretty fragile with the Prussians. I only have 22 points for the entire campaign. Hanover is not coming in on our side, so I can probably pretty much forget about them. I'm going to be facing the possibility of French troops moving in against me, Russians coming in. I think Prussia's hosed. This is sort of the nightmare scenario, and the thing that I think is not hard to engineer against them if they go into Saxony, which is, of course, their historical thing. Anyway, so what I'm going to do, I don't remember what my number was there. It was over 30. It's a bigger force. Is on a 1 or a 2, I'm going to go pretty low. On a 3 or 4, I'm going to go around 50%. On a 5 or a 6, maybe I'll go to 100%. We'll see what the percentages look like and, you know, what we get. But we'll get an idea there. Oh, boy. So I'm looking at close to 100% there. I think that's about as high as I want to go, no matter what. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw out. I'm going to double the size of the Prussian army as well. Look our way through the belligerent table. Now, it is not 1761 or 1762. It's 56. Hanover is neutral, so -1 from the French die rolls, which means I can get down to 0. So the French are going to gain 20% of their force. I got to count their troops and give them those additionals. Likewise for Russia, they get a 3. That gives them plus 10%. I got 6 extra French. I don't know how many Russians I have here. So 10%. They have 16, 20. So they'll get 2 more. And that's sort of a fortress there for the Russians, of some sort or another. And then our final one is the Saxons, and there aren't a lot of Saxons left. But let's see what they get. They're going to add 10% as well. And they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That sounds like there's one extra Saxon showing up. Okay. So that's what happens there. For the leadership table, we roll this for each country. Yep, for each country. So we'll start with the Prussians because they just have to roll one. And they get a 3. They're going to get an additional leader. So for this, I throw all my Prussian leaders into a cup, and I draw one at random. And overall, we ended up getting Henry, who's the second best of the Prussian leaders, right? Yeah, I don't know about that. No, I wouldn't go that far. But he's a decent leader, one of the better ones. For Austria, we ended up canning Cerbaloni. He's the worst of our guys. He failed in his job, but we got 2 new leaders. Nobody too impressive. The French got a new leader as well that they don't really need. For the Russians, they got rid of their number 2, Femur, something like that. But the biggie is they got Saltykov, who is as good as Apraxin. Apraxin was a naval officer too. So, they're going to have their setup. And, yeah, lots happened to leaders who don't really exist. We didn't check Saxony. Saxony can't get a leader. Okay. And now we get to adjust all the forces. And basically, I can just move things to any fortress that's occupied by an SP of the same nation. Now, that includes these new forces, that includes my leaders, etc. And it's hidden what actually happens, I get to see the size of the stacks on the board. And given that no counters are bigger than an 8, that can be an indicator. But yeah, I'm going to get to reapportion my forces. And my goal is to focus the Austrians more on Silesia, with the hope that the French can come over and help the Saxons. But I am going to keep a force near Saxony as well. And, of course, the Russians are going to gather in the Russian hex. And that's really about it for the game. I mean, I'll flip these guys over. They're not actually in a fortress, but that'll help me ignore them. The Prussians have the possibility of marching into Sweden and bring them into the war in the hopes of getting Hanover to join them finally. But other than that, there's not a lot they can do. Moving into the German states doesn't do anything as long as I don't attack Nuremberg, and that looks pretty far out of reach. So for the most part, it's Prussia alone standing against pretty much all their major enemies. Just the Swedes won't be entering. And there's no rules for, the Swedes coming in later or whatever. Now, historically, I don't think the Swedes came in right away. Did they? They do. Oh, no, they do. The Swedes and the Empire both come in. And Saxony's gone by that point, so yeah. So I probably have what this is set up as. And now the question is Frederick good enough to hold out alone? And let me start doing the setup, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I got since we got lots of time on here. Well, a lack of Austrian commanders. Brown is here. Lacy, I think, is here. They have subordinates. They have their forces. Basic feeling is I got to face Magdeburg on this side. And Silesia here. For the French, I gathered everything at Wesel. That's going to kind of cut across, trying to avoid Hanover. The valuable thing is I can garrison cities. Now, these aren't worth any victory points. These guys are, and they're important. I left garrisons back here. Is that valuable? Probably not. But we'll leave it as it is for now, because I've got a fairly big French force coming forward. And the Russians, of course, are just piled up where they are. Now I do the same with the Prussians and figure out where the hell they're going to be. Also split the Prussians into only 2 forces, which I think might be a mistake. It may not stay that way, but at this point, Frederick has the larger force down here in Silesia. I want to start taking some Austrian territory. I think I've lost the battle for Saxony. And this looks like a smaller stack, so let's beat it up. It doesn't have Rutkowski, that's why. Up here, I've got Henry in Berlin. He's in a more, and he is the next best leader. I was right about that. I had to move Schwerin over here. Schwerin has a little less initiative. That's the reason. But I need him here to be able to move against either France or Russia or Austria, depending on how things go. I'm leaving the garrison up here as a sacrificial lamb to slow down the Russian advance through Poland. I don't have anything equivalent to do against anyone else. But I'm hoping to make some ground with Frederick here. Now, he's got a big stack of forces. He's got to start off with the largest stack, you know. So, but he does have enough leaders with him that, well, see, the problem is he can't split his force as long as that force is out there and big. And that's one of the difficulties. You can't make Frederick's stack smaller than another stack that's out there voluntarily. So, unless I split this stack, and I have other leaders here as well that aren't bad. There's a lot of good Prussian leaders. I just don't have a whole hell of a lot to do out here. So I'm kind of hoping numbers count and that my initial superiority in doubling the size of my force allows me to maybe get some better odds, win a few battles against the Austrians, really put them on the rocks. And then be able to deal with the foreign powers, France and Russia, when they come in. And of course, Russia may pull the Peter the Third or whatever trick, you know, and switch sides. I can hope. That's about all I can do. But they can also switch both ways. So, the scenario that actually handles that is more accurate historically. It calls them back, and then when they come back in, they get recalled. So, you know, there's almost no chance of Russia doing anything successful in that scenario. That can't happen in the campaign, but at least something somewhat similar could conceivably happen. We shall see. We shall see. It's certainly not the world against Frederick, even though we moved against Saxony. Sweden and the Empire are not in on us, and I don't know how much that matters. They're not the big guys, and not having Hanover is a serious problem, because that's where some of our reinforcement points were going to come from. And oh well. All right, let's send it up. And that's the end of 1756.